Oh, hey guys, I'm going to finally do the equipment tour around here, and I'm going to start off by saying sorry for the farm looking like a mess, because I have equipment strewn everywhere because I have no barn space. So just keep that in mind. Farming isn't perfect. I'd like it to be perfect, but money says otherwise. So we're going to start here with what basically kind of, I guess you could say, started it all. But here's was my grandpa's. He gave it to us. 74 Oliver 1365. Man, I cannot talk today. It's got a 1510 loader on it, and that's what she is. Awesome little tractor. 4-cylinder Fiat diesel. Just can't kill them. They're kind of like the equivalent of a 4BT Cummins. And you can see I had to do some welding because it was starting to crack, so I had to get her all welded up before it cracked anymore. You can see it's kind of beat up. It was a minor tractor before my grandpa got it, and then my grandpa bought it with like 400 something hours on it, and then it's got 3,800 hours. It's actually off. It's probably got 3,900 hours on it now because the tack cable broke right after I got it running again, because this thing like 5 or 6 years ago, the injection pump went out, and we just parked it because we were gonna rebuild the injection pump. We had to take the loader off of it. I did run it around with the loader without the loader for a while. That was nice, but we ended up just buying a brand new injection pump from Allstate Ag Parts. It's got a new lift pump and new injection pump and a new starter solenoid, but it needs a new hydraulic pump because if you watch that plowing video, you have to really rev the snot of the tractor to get it to creating pressure, so it needs a new hydraulic pump. That's one. But yeah, good little tractor. But that's kind of what started it all. So we'll go on to the next one, which would be the 1855. And here's the next one. This is right after shortly after my dad brought home the 1365 from my grandparents. We saw this in his hometown. Well, I saw it one day. Oh shoot, I was like 4 or 5. I was 4, because I started driving it when I was 4. So I was little, but I knew enough what an Oliver looked like. But if you're from Ohio, you know Loudonville. There's the it's actually on the keychain. I can look. But there is a canoe livery in Loudonville. Shoot, I can't read it anymore. Mohican canoe livery. But there's the keychain. It was sitting there for sale. So of course Mom told me, oh no, don't tell your dad. But of course I had to tell him. I said, Daddy, there's an Oliver tractor in my grandma and grandpa's. So of course, you know, next time we went up there, we went and looked at it. Sure enough, good tractor, $3,200. Came with a 21-foot woods batwing brush hog, and that's all the guy ever used it for, is bush hogging just around the canoe livery. And he also logged a bunch of trees with it, and it kind of boogered up the rear end, which I can show you. He had to rebuild it. But $3,200, got out with the batwing brush hog, ran the batwing brush hog with it a little bit, and determined that it was way overkill for the poor tractor. So ended up selling the batwing for, I think, $1,800. So I ended up with the tractor just a little more than $2,000, which pretty awesome deal, because it had, I don't remember how many hours I had on it when we first got it. I think it was 2,500. Nah, not 25, 3,800 hours, and it's got a little over 4,200 now, because we really did with it was just hay until recent years when I took over. But you can see those big blocks welded in there. This is all custom. That linkage was sort of refabricated. Block on this side welded on, same thing. Drawbar was all re-welded in. So what they were doing is basically logging, using the thing as a log skidder. So it beat the snot out of the rear end, which I still have to adjust the 3-point because I can't get it to raise any higher than this. And it'll only go down to about here. So I can't really use it for 3-point work, and I'd like to plow with it. But originally it was an open station when we got it, and then my dad, a few years after that, bought that cab and then put the cab on it, and then I hated that cab every stinking time I got in it made me hate this tractor. And when the injection pump I thought died, that's a different story. It's fuel pickcock getting shut off. Injection pump was fine. But to get it in the shop, it would fit with the cab, but it was kind of a pain in the butt because it took up so much space. So I took the cab off, and then when I did that, I just went ahead and put the fenders back on. And I also wanted to take the cab off because the hydraulic levers were frozen. You'd have to like really yank on them and then have to jam them back and sort of get them in the neutral position. But now I have them all free, so those are easy to use again. But that's also why we took the cab off, because you got to take the valve stack apart to get the levers off. But I did that, and it was widened out to 38. Oops, about tripped. 38-inch rows, so I narrowed it up to 30s, except for that side because I can't get that axle to move. But it's enough that I can plant with it and cultivate if I have to. But bring a good old tractor. This is also a 74. I think I mentioned that already. But we'll move on to the next closest, the white, which is a 77 white to 135, obviously. Got this, 3 years ago already. I'm gonna have to stand like this so winds. Might have to scrap all the video. It might be too windy. We got this 3 years ago at the Mount Gilead consignment auction. And it's kind of a funny story. We didn't know it was there. Like the online auction listing didn't have it listed, so it was kind of a surprise when we went there. And we were like, oh well, it'll probably go for 10 grand. So, you know, it was one of those like, yeah, that'd be nice to have, but probably won't even get it. But you know, it had its leaks. I mean, it's full of goo in here, and I've pressure washed it thousands of times already. But oh well, the head leak's getting pretty bad. But it didn't have that when we bought it. But we looked around. I fired it up. I backed it up, and I went forward. And, you know, checked all the gears. Clutch was good. Ran good. Fired right up. So we're like, oh, that'll be a nice tractor for somebody. So it comes around at the time, or before it gets auctioned off, my dad takes a picture of me and my brother in front of it and texts it to my mom and says, hey, look what we just bought, as a joke. And of course, you know, she didn't take the bait. So comes around about an hour later, time for it to get auctioned off. Auctioneer starts out like 10 grand. Crickets. Nobody's raising their hand. Guy says 8. No hands. So my dad just oh hey, I'll take it for 3. So 3. Or 3 or 4. I think it was 4. Because then it went up from there, and it went up to, my dad bid it up to 52.50. And then it kept on going past that. So we're like, oh well, we just got the guy up to a decent amount of money. Turns out the guy that they thought was bidding was just talking to another guy standing beside him, and because one of the guys that stands out around points the stick at you, says, wait, are you bidding? To the guy that's talking to his buddy. And he goes, oh no, I'm not. So they tracked down to another guy who was also not bidding, talking to a guy on the phone who they thought was bidding. Tracked it down back to us, and the guy points the stick at my dad and says, you were the last one. So I think that threw everybody off, and then, you know, auctioneer was, you know, 52.50, 52.50, sold. Oops. We ended up with a tractor. So, I mean, really, I would have been stuck chisel plowing with the 10 shank with that thing, all the tillage work with that thing. So it would have been kind of hectic, you know, hooking up a disc, unhook it, hook the planter up, get the planter set up, go plant, unhook it, hook the disc back up, do another field. It'd have been hectic. So I'm glad we ended up with it. But I ended up driving home that night with, it had 2 big floodlights up where that light bar is, and then these lights down here, which I would have known that I could have opened that up and wiggled one of those wires and the headlights would have worked. But drove it home, started driving it home about 6, no, it was 4. Because we ended up staying there a little while after, and there was multiple other things that we should have bought, like big augers that were going for a couple $100 a piece. But we just, you know, spent 5 grand on a tractor, so we were like, oh, better pace ourselves. Now, my dad was worried a little bit that it'd blow up on the way home, but not yet. Still hasn't done it yet. But it's got new front. We put new front tires on it. The ones like Jake Ziegler has on his 155, because I like those taller tires. These things, I mean, they got some meat to them, so you can really grip when you turn. And but we went back to the story. Drove it home from Mount Gilead and got halfway home, and it started getting dark with one floodlight that worked up there and one of those lights right there that worked. So drove it home. I about smacked a deer with it, and but made it home safe and sound. Went through it the next day, started, you know, cleaning it up, getting it pressure washed. I changed the oil because the oil was about as well, I hate to show this, but about as black and gooey as that. It's a little better now. Before it was like thin grease. But got it cleaned up. AC, I messed with some of the wiring on that, got the AC working, got the lights working, wired all the lights up there, put the light bar on it, of course, straight pipe, and LEDs back here. But it is 540, so I can run normal equipment with it. I'd like to get 1,000 for it, even though I have nothing for 1,000 to run it. But it's got, go from the cab, up. Nice and clean. I came in and armor-alled it. It's actually been a while since I've been in here, but it's kind of somebody hack job wired in for the floodlights and all the other lights. And I went and put the oil pressure gauge on it, because this one, the sending unit must have been bad, and I wasn't about to pay AGCO $150 for a stupid sending unit. So I put a manual gauge in there, and the oil pressure is low. It's running hot, like 1700 RPM under a load at operating temp. It holds about 25 pounds of oil pressure, which I think is a little low. I mean, compared to everything else. Like, that thing will hold about 30. But radio works, which is nice. Have a speaker just laying there, because the original speaker was pretty well toast. But yeah, it's got a new alternator on it since we bought it. We had to put a new alternator on it like a month after we got it, because this was all just yard. I started chisel plowing it, and that's when it went out. But that's this one. Been a good tractor, except for I noticed this spring the head leak starting to appear over here by the water pump. So if anybody knows where there is a Continental military motor, let me know, please, because I'm looking for one, because I'll probably end up blowing it up this fall, and if not, I'll be amazed. So we'll go on to the next one. Oh, I'm not even gonna do a long one on this. Got that from Kentucky, New Holland. It's a 97 model, 1925, basically like a TC30. And then Massey Ferguson, don't know the year on that, 50C backhoe. And then here's my little pride and joy. Got this thing this spring. Went to look at it, 'cause in the ad the guy said that it hadn't run in a while, couldn't get it running, and it stuck in second and third gear. So I was like, oh, well, I'm looking for a little project, and it was $400. No, $500. 48 from LH. So I was like, oh, sweet. You know, it was about 15 minutes from here, so I hauled tail over on my lunch break, went and looked at it, and the guy had gotten it running, and he's like, I put some fresh gas in it, turned the fuel on, charged the battery up, I hit the start button, it fired right up. So I ran it a little bit, ran good, ran clean. A little bit of smoke when you first started up and rev it real hard, but, you know, it needed a little bit of a tune-up, and, you know, it is also pretty old. It has decent tires on it. It had 2 brand new front tires and then 1 new tire over there. That one's old, and it's got some weather checking, but it holds air just fine. I mean, it's got its leaks here and there, and it wasn't painted. So I was like, okay, $500, I'll take it. Because he said, if you don't want it, I'm going to raise the price up to $1,100. And since it's running now, I was like, well, okay, I'll take it. So I went and picked it up the next day, brought it home, did a tune-up, cleaned the plugs, cleaned the spark plugs, new upper radiator hose that was proper. Just, you know, went through it, and then I ran it around for like 3 or 4 months. Used it to pull some logs, and, you know, just worked it, made sure it was all good mechanical. Got the second and third loose. It's still a little tight, but it's just because he never used it in second and third. He always used it in first because he pulled a brush hog with it. So then I tore it down this summer and painted it. I got a different hood, which was sort of, it's straighter than the other one. This one has a little more pitting, but it's not as noticeable. It's a good working paint job. But yeah, there's this one, and it is for sale. Anybody wants it? I'm just throwing it out there just to see if I can sell it. And if I can sell it, I'm gonna buy either a 66 or a 77 Oliver. But if not, I'll just end up keeping it because it kind of matches my truck. Well, here is, I decided I'm just gonna go ahead and mix implements and tractors all together. Here is the white 5100 corn planter. Got this thing at the Hillsdale consignment auction. Same year we got the white. We got it actually the week after the white. Got this thing for 2,700 bucks. Best 2,700 bucks we've ever spent. I mean, you can't even. When we were looking for them, you couldn't even touch them for anything under $4 grand. So we were lucky we got this thing. I mean, yeah, it needed some wear parts on it, but for what we were needing, pretty much right away, got a pretty good deal. And it is, I know it's not in the barn. I don't have barn space enough for it, but it's kind of tucked here. I am gonna get it in the barn though before winter. I can get it and the combine in, and then I'll show you the splitter later. So I'll go next implement. Here is the Oliver, actually, if you can see the nice green paint coming out from underneath the red. A Oliver 565 518s, and it does have a Ford gauge wheel on it. I mean, they're pretty much identical. And this one is, it's not in the best of shape. It's not exactly, as you can tell, it is not exactly tight by any means, but it still works. And it works really awesome. Don't have the tail wheel on it because it's on the hay blind, and you can tell that this one's nice and visible. This one is razor thin. I could really cut my finger on that. I've actually cut my shin on it before. But yeah, there's that. That's the next piece. Right here is the International 180 30 4-row cultivator. It was a wide cultivator, but I narrowed it up. And it's been a good cultivator. I actually can pull it with that thing. That's actually the only thing I've cultivated corn with, is that little tractor there. Since the 1365 3-point doesn't work. So there's that one. On to the next. Here's the bean head for the combine, 15-footer. Here is the 77 Gleaner F2. It's the short back, so it doesn't have it's not the newer one that did, and it's because it's an inline 6 diesel. Short auger, it's manual fold, and back end shorter, but still does pretty awesome for soybeans and corn. And here's the 4-row head. You see, as you can tell, it's very tight in here. I'm not going to climb up in the cab right now because it's kind of a pain in the butt. Light bar, and here's the big barn. It's a very tight fit. And here's the, oh, lazy pig. Here's the Killsborough 185 wagon on a Colby 10-ton running gear. Just put brand new tires all the way around it. And with those extensions, I can get it to about 200 bushel, which is pretty nice, which I might end up pulling that behind the grain truck. I don't know. Still not decided on that yet. On to the next implement. Here is the Case IH 1490 Hydro Swing mower. Pretty decent mower for what it is. Here's the 10 shank. It's a Brady 1000. Surprised I remembered that. And here's the splitter for the planter, 5100S. Pretty much just like the planter, just it's a 5-row instead of most people do a 3-row. So it is a little bit lighter, which is nice. Massey 31 model 6-bar mower. I still use this. Good little under the fence mower. Here is the New Holland 273 Super Hayliner. That actually, doesn't look like it, but it has a fresh coat of paint on it. There's the Vicon tedder. I can't remember. It's right there. RS510T. That's pretty good. It needs the tine shortened because you can't get enough angle on it. Back in that mess of weeds is a Oliver 285 field cultivator that had wings on it. But I went and took the wings and put those extra wings on this white 285 field cultivator. And I got these drag bars, except for these. These came with the white one, but I got these drag bars from my neighbor. He had sitting in the barn. Put those on there. This thing is probably one of the best field cultivators you could probably buy. It does an amazing job. It does better than my neighbor's soil finisher. Just levels it perfectly smooth. Makes a great seed bed too. And if you go on YT Mag, Yesterday's Tractors, in the Oliver section, there's a pretty knowledgeable guy on there, John Schwiebert. I think that's his last name. He's just like 3 hours north of here, and he had here's the wings, and then the main frame, that Oliver 285 field cultivator, and he bought new a long time ago, and he was, I think, one of the head mechanics for an Oliver, pretty big Oliver dealer up in Toledo. And I was posted something that I was looking for a Oliver, a white field cultivator, and he said, well, hey, I got one. So I went up there. He had already tore it all apart for me so I could get it on the trailer and hauled it home. And I actually was planning on running just the Oliver field cultivator, going through and fixing it up, but it had a whole bunch of like this going on. Bent, these brackets were all bent and twisted up on like maybe 10 of them. And then some of the tubes were bent. Actually, you can tell that's actually not 100% straight. Never noticed that before. But I didn't have this white. My plan was, I planned like 6 months before to go get the field cultivator from John, and using that, fixing it up, throwing drag bars on it, and using that as my field cultivator. But there was an auction before then, yet there was this white 285. I didn't even really think that I was going to buy it, but we ended up getting it for like $500, and then dragging it home from like Richwood, Ohio, in the middle of the night. Or not the middle of the night, but it was pretty dark by the time we left. And they also had a 2135 there too that had a rebuilt motor, but it went for way too much. But that was the plan, is to use that Oliver as my main rig, but I ended up just taking the wings off of it and putting it on here. So now I have a 24-foot field cultivator, which it works pretty good with the white. I got new shoes to put on here because they're pretty much whooped, which makes the white lug pretty hard because you actually got to really bury it in the ground to get it to do something. But the plan is to take that main frame and either make it a 3-point or leave it pull type but put new shoes on it too and use it as a backup. And if here, buried in the weeds, is my $50 disc. Went to an auction. It's an Alice Chalmers, don't remember the model number, it's like an AW something, but it's a 14-foot disc. Went to an auction to actually look at a 1655, which turned out to be a total pile of crap because the auctioneers, when they pulled it out of the barn, clearly didn't know what the heck they were doing. Didn't check the radiator, didn't check the oil, didn't check the rear end for fluid. So the rear end had no fluid in it, had no radiator fluid, and it had signs of a blown head gasket because there was antifreeze dripping down the side of the block. And they wouldn't start it for the auction, so that was suspicious because they said they tried to pull out this. They had this big, massive trencher stuck in the barn. And they were trying to pull it out with it. So I was like, yeah, they totally destroyed that tractor. But ended up, they had a whole bunch of implements to pull it out of the weeds, and this thing actually was in pretty decent shape. So they're like, well, okay, let's just go linger by the implements and see what they go for. Nobody was bidding at all. And then the scrappers kicked in, so, I was like, all right, that's a decent enough disc that I can, because I didn't have any tillage tools at that point. I had the chisel plow, that was it. I had a little 8-foot John Deere drag disc, but it was worthless. But ended up getting this for $50, and then I had a 4-bottom Oliver pipe plow, but the mast was pretty welded on, like big scab welds on it. but it went for $100. I should have bought that because I think a scrapper got it. But you know, what do you do? On to the next. Here's my $150 sprayer. That's 40 foot. Good little sprayer. Got it for 150 bucks. I think I just said it already. I don't know. I'm having a hard time keeping track. But it's a good sprayer. Used all this spraying. You saw it in the one video spraying. Pretty awesome for 150 bucks. Wheel rake, 4-wheel. And then here's what we got 2 years after we got the white at the Mount Gilead consignment auction also. It was very last thing they sold at the end of the day. It was like 5:30 when we got it. And we never saw it because we were walking back to the car, we got lost and went the wrong direction, and it was sitting at the very end of the road, kind of basically, it looked like it was in the parking lot. Anyway, I saw this and I was like, all right, Dad, I don't care how cold we are and how late it is. I want to stay and get this thing. And then it was, of course, you get your equipment jockeys there. So the equipment jockeys are, you know, standing there bad mouthing it to some guys that looked interested to it, saying, oh, I bet they used it for hauling firewood. Like, yeah, it doesn't look like it. It's way too nice. Ended up getting it for 500 bucks. Probably maybe a little bit overpaid for it, but still saved it from an equipment jockey, and it's in pretty awesome shape. Oliver 471. You can see I've used it recently. It does an awesome job. It'll spread manure about 10-15 foot wide. Good little sprayer. It was definitely worth the wait. And then yeah, you can see I blew a tire. And then here's my grandpa also bought this. Used it behind the 1365 a lot. And it is I actually can't remember the model number on it. It's a 3231, I think, or no, 4241. It's something like that. But I don't use it quite as often because, well, I don't moldboard a lot, and when I do, I use the 5-bottom. So I guess since I'm already recording, I'm right here. There's the 74 Chevy grain truck, and then back here is the 770 New Holland chopper, and the hay head is sitting over there on a hay wagon bed so it doesn't get rusty. We actually ended up using this quite a bit, actually. It's got a little bit of rot, but still does an awesome job. And it's 1,000 PTO, even though I'm not even gonna bother opening it. But you know, just like every other chopper, used it all to chop this. And you can see that green stripe right there is a little bit of overspill. But I think that is everything. I'm sure as soon as I shut the camera off, I know there's gonna be something I missed. But sorry for if there's wind noise or sound stuttery and don't know what I'm saying. I'm trying to hurry up and do this. Try to make some videos and put some videos out for you guys because I've been slacking. And sorry if I dido in some of my stories and like get off on a tangent and then come back to it. You'll get the gist that we have a lot of crap and it's kind of scattered everywhere. So corn harvest will be very soon, as soon as that goes away. Ground's still pretty solid. There's just water sitting on top of the ground, so I might be able to combine some corn if we get some good sunshine and some wind. Because corn's sitting about 16% right now. I'd like it right at 15. It'd be great. But as you can tell, I'm getting some wind damage. So those harvest videos will be coming soon. So thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next